tonight we're going to talk about our next topic, and that is anxiety. We're going to look at it from an overarching perspective. I've given you a couple of handouts. The handouts, again, are going to be on, or should be, and will be on the church website. So if you misplaced them, you use them as a napkin once you get in the car while your kid is eating something and you need to wipe, something off. That's cool. I don't mind. So several things we're going to look at, just kind of look at some of the handouts as as the lesson moves. But I want us to really just start, and the key verse that I want us to start with comes out of 1 Peter chapter 5. And it's at the top of the handout that you can look at. And it says this, it says, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. He cares for you. When we're stressed and strained, a lot of times we have that downcastness that no one cares, no one acknowledges, no one is there for us. But 1 Peter 5 starts us with the mindset that someone cares for us. Someone is there for us at all times. And even though we feel burdened, whether it's burdens on our shoulders, proverbially, or it's that gut just wrenching, whatever it might be, physically, heart pounding, lungs not getting enough air. We'll talk a little bit about the physiology of it here in just a minute. But someone cares. And they care enough to stop, and they care enough to love, and to take the time. And I will tell you that most of those moments are simply just letting us, with anxiety, vent it out. Get it out, cry it out, shout it out. Hopefully not punch it out, but just get it out. Because when we bottle it up inside, we feel like we're overwhelmed, and no one cares, and there's no solutions. And we may not see the solution right in front of us, but the solution is there. And so I appreciate David talking about the solution of prayer. I appreciate that. Because I have come to learn in my short little lifespan that the greatest thing that I can do when I don't have anything else, the greatest thing that I can do when I'm at my wit's end, the greatest thing that I can do when I'm starting the problem, not trying to finish the problem. That's one of the best things I have learned, is when I'm starting in on the problem, the trauma, the turmoil in my life or other people's lives, is I start with prayer, because there's a God that cares for me, that never leaves me, that's always been there. He's not taking a nap. He's not going out to get food. He's not feeding out puppies or the animals or whatever. He's right there. And so I want to start with that. And the word there is very specific. Cast all of your anxieties, strains, stresses, burdens, whatever the translation, your version would look like. It's all going to come back to the same synonymous word. Anxieties, burdens, stress. And so I want us to see that tonight. So I also want us to see the picture first of how we as a church body can handle it. Okay? How we can handle it for other people. Because I hope that you're gaining out of this is that it's not just to help you, but it's to help that other person. I know that we're all a stressed person. Every one of us in this room, we have stress, we have anxieties. You mask it well. You hide it under that rock where people can't see it. You put on a pretty face. But we are all the same. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second, about what does stress us, what does bring us anxiety. We're all different on what brings us anxieties. I will tell you that. We have a lot of similarities, yes, but we have some of those pinnacle ones, yeah. It may be unique to you. So I just want you to hear that. In just a second, we'll look at like the official quote-unquote definition for anxieties and anxiety disorders, and even the overarching one, which is general anxiety disorder. But just to put it in perspective, before we look at Luke and see a picture from Jesus, okay, what I want us to hear is, what is anxiety? Anxiety is this. It's the emotional reactions with physical symptomology, futuristic thinking, or future-oriented thinking, okay? That's kind of how we approach it. So physical symptomologies that typically have future-oriented thinking patterns that can cause us distressful emotional reactions. It's kind of a working definition on anxiety. Okay? Anxiety is not always that bad. We have eustress and distress. Okay? So there's some good stuff out there about anxiety. You know, the coffee cup is first, I must have coffee. Because if not, I'm already anxious. And I need some coffee. All right? So thinking through that. Now let's look at Luke, and this is Luke 24. So I want us to look at Luke, okay? And this is a great picture of how we as the church can approach, number one, we can approach anxiety from ourselves, but really I would say number 1.5, I'm not even going to say number 2, I'd say 1.5, how we as the church can approach people that have anxiety, that are at their wits' end. Okay? So I want us to look at this. So this is the after story. Jesus has been crucified on the cross. He's been taken down. He's been buried in the tomb. Okay? And these are 2 disciples of his larger circle. Understand that. There was a larger circle than just the 12. But this is a pair of disciples that were following him. And following this, they're heading back to Emmaus. Okay? So this is that story. And it says, now behold, 2 of them were traveling the same day to a village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. So they're walking. They're not taking the metro. They're not, scootering it like downtown has. All right? They're walking it in their sandals. They talked together of all the things which had happened. So it was, while they were conversing and reasoning, that Jesus himself drew near to them and went with them. But their eyes were restrained from understanding that he was with them. And he said to them, what kind of conversation is this that you would have with one another as you walk, and why are you so sad? And then one who was named Cleophas answered and said to him, are you the only stranger in Jerusalem, and have you not known of the things that have happened there these days? So he said to them, well, what things have happened? And so they said to him, the things concerning Jesus the Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty indeed in word before God, all the people, and how the chief priests and the rulers delivered him to be condemned, crucified him, but we were hoping, key word there, we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Indeed, beside all this, today is the 3rd day since the things have happened. Yes, a certain woman of the company who had arrived at the tomb early astonished us. When they did not find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, and he is alive. And certain of those who were with us went to the tomb, found it just as the women had said, but him they did not find. And then he said to them, O foolish ones, the slow of heart to believe in all the things that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and entered into his glory? Verse 27, and beginning with Moses, at Moses and all the prophets, who expounded to them in all the scriptures these things. Now they drew near to the village, and they were where they were going, and he indicated that he was going to go farther. I think that's kind of funny. But they constrained him and said, hey, abide with us, for it is almost evening, and the day is far spent. And he went and sat with them. And now it came to pass that they sat at the table with him. And he took the bread, blessed it, broke it, and he gave thanks. And then their eyes were opened, and they knew who he was. And then immediately he vanished. Wow. What a cool story. What a cool story. So, I look at this story. So, it's 3 days past. They had waited all these 3 days with all the rest of the disciples, worrying, okay, is Jesus going to do what he said he was going to do? They don't get the news they expect to hear. Jesus is nowhere to be found. Someone stole his body. Something's happened. They don't have the answers. So these two guys, we don't know why, these two guys start heading back to the village. Maybe this was their place to go. Maybe this was their kind of quiet place. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as they're walking, here comes this figure. They don't recognize him. How do you not recognize Jesus? But yet, because the Lord is so powerful, he's awesome, he's like, hey, I'm just going to, I'm going to do this. You're not going to realize it's me. Maybe he had a disguise on, a ball cap, reversed, and had a different type of t-shirt on. And he didn't always wear sandals. Sometimes he wore cowboy boots, and he's wearing, I don't know. He looks different. He shaved the beard off. I don't know. But somehow it says that their eyes were restrained. And he just listens to them. He listens to them gripe. He listens to them sob. He listens to their hopes that have been dashed. Their dreams of the redemption of the entire Israelite nation. He listens to them. They walk and they talk. And it's 7 miles. Now, I don't know how long it takes you to run or walk 7 miles. I know how long it takes me to run 7 miles, okay? But it obviously took them a good amount of time, because by the evening time it was darkish, and then Jesus, what did I say? Then Jesus says, I'm going to keep on going. But why would he say that? I'm going to keep on going. Now, part of me says that they'd already found comfort. They'd already heard comfort and peace in him, and they didn't even know it was Jesus. So they invited him to stay, to eat with them. And then he reveals himself. He blesses the bread, and he reveals himself. I don't know if he took the fake beard off, if he pulled the cap off, or he just said, I give this blessing, and he said it in his normal way. And then they realized they were in the presence of Jesus. And they were comforted. What a beautiful story right there of how we as the church provide comfort in the midst of chaos. We provide answers inside of anxiety. Okay? Here's one of the things I do know. That when you face people that have anxiety, have stresses and strains and struggles, you want to help, right? But you get anxious and stressed out by going, I don't know how to help. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers. Let me give you the easiest answer from the road to Emmaus. Just walk and listen to them. Just be right there, elbow to elbow with them sometimes. If it means you cry with them, you cry with them. If it means you laugh with them, you laugh with them. If it means you just sit there in silence, that's what you do. I think I'm pretty good at what I do simply because most of the time I just sit there with them. And I'm not trying to solve it all. God's already got it solved. I just need to help point them to God's solution, if that's what I need to do. So when we think about that, these guys, and there's some background information right there that you can read. These guys were overwhelmed. They were stressed out. They had spent 3 years with Jesus. He was their hope. He was their passion. He was everything. And now, because Jesus died on the cross, was buried in a tomb, and now they couldn't find his body, which was all prophet-based, they didn't even listen to the scripture. They didn't remember what it was. They were so overwhelmed, right? But Jesus walked with them. He talked with them. He loved on them. He ate with them. And then they realized, wow, here's how I take care of it. So I give you that kind of platform as we think through how we understand anxieties, okay? And so let's learn a little bit about anxieties tonight, okay? Let's learn about it. What makes you anxious? I don't want to hear it out loud. I'm going to tell you a couple of mine. So I'm the only confessional person. But you've got a couple of slots there. You don't have to write them down tonight. You can go home and go, I don't want my person beside me to see what I get anxious about. Why? Because it may be Tiffany. For Joe, Joe said, it's Tiffany, number 1. Number 2, Tiffany. Number 3, Tiffany and Tate. I don't know. I don't know. All right? But I want you to formulate in your brain, what are your top 3? Because if we can identify our tops, we can help work through them. Okay? And these can be situational. I promise you, they can be. So if it's in this circumstance, I'm anxious about this. Okay? If my kid who's playing at UCA is stepping out there with 3 seconds to go to kick a ball from the 40, which is almost a 50-yard kick, and is tied up or they're down by 2, I'm anxious. And you know that. And if you've sat at the football game with me, you know my pattern. I put 2 blow pops in my mouth and some sunflower seeds, and I'm at the edge of the seat. And I got everything. I'm like praying, Lord, let it be a bad snap if he misses. Let the holder not catch it correctly if he misses. But don't let that leg fail us right now. We need it. But we've been there, But it can be situational. So as we identify some things, I want you to think through what does make you stressed out. Okay? And sometimes, again, what happens? It becomes physical, symptomology. A lot of the times, it might be futuristic-oriented thinking. The worst of the worst, this is going to be really bad. And I get anxious. I mean, I'm a grown man, and I still get called to the big office. And when I get called to the big office at the job, I'm like, I'm probably going home. That's probably it, because I was that way in school, and I wasn't that bad of a kid. But I was like, you remember that day, when you got called to the office, and you were a good kid, some of y'all were, but some of you weren't, and you spent more time at home than you did at school, and you know who you are. But when they say, Dana Moore, come to the office. And like, she's the epitome of awesome niceness, and she's going to get called to the office. She's all sweating. Oh my gosh. I didn't park the car in the right spot. She's like, that's what we're doing. Futuristic, oriented, we're getting all razzed up, right? It just happens in that way. So what is anxiety? So we've already defined it right here, and I've given you a little bit more kind of what I would call, if we were talking in Bible style, Bible kind of side, this is like a living version. How about that one? You know, you got the King James version of the scriptures, you got the New King James, you got the, you know, the American Standard, and then you got that living version, you know, that like big gigantic definitions, and the scriptures got like examples, and you're like, oh, I didn't know the scriptures had all these examples. And if you do want to have some fun, look at the Hawaiian version. That is really funny. You know, that's a really funny version to think about scripture. But there's a Hawaiian version out there. Okay, but here's a little bit expanded. So anxiety are vital emotions. We are all emotional critters. We are all based on emotion. We start all with the same emotions. We all end with the same emotions. We all express the same emotions, but our expressions are different. Think of it that way. So we have them. Our number one emotion that we automatically start with, that we always go to, even as adults, from an infant, from that not really the 2 or 3 day old, but like a 2-month-old, all the way up to that 102-year-old. Okay? That number one emotion we always default to is anger. We're just used to that. And physiologically and personality-wise, it is to help us survive as a child, as an infant. Why? Because we are needing to survive. That's the only goal of an infant, is to survive. To pleasure itself, not in a bad way, but to pleasure itself and to survive. That's the only goal it's there for. That's why it likes to eat, it likes to sleep. That's the only thing. What a great life that is. People are changing your diaper, changing your bed, giving you food. You get to sleep whenever you want. They give you toys. How awesome is that? But when they need something, what emotion do they express? Anger. And it comes out in different ways. Some it's like raging, screaming. Some it's crying. Some it's settling down. Right? But it's anger. And we're the same way. We're the same way. Something happens to us, we automatically trip into anger. But we've learned to check ourselves. Oh, no. You know, and we justify things. Right? You let somebody pull out almost in front of you from an intersection that you got the green light for. You're going to automatically go to anger, and within a second or two, you go, oh yeah, you're just a bad driver. Or no, you didn't hit me, right? Or oh, you were this person, or this was this, or you had tinted windows, and you didn't. You justify. We know how to switch out of it. We do. So we're all built with the same emotions. I actually teach in one of my classes on the emotions chapter, and I ask a writing prompt before they really get into the chapter. And the prompt is, who has more emotions, girls or boys? And it's a 1-page essay that they write. And it is phenomenal to read those. It is great. And I say, explain why boys or girls have more emotions. You got to make a decision. And then we have that wonderful discussion. Yes, girls, and I'm the devil's advocate. I'm like, I think girls do have more emotion. Yeah, you have one more emotion, just like you have one added rib. God gave you one added emotion. And I mean, and it just we play on it. And then I'm like, okay, now we all have the same emotions. And they're all in that brain, and they're all linked, and that's why we do what we do. So it's a vital emotion warning us, I love this one, warning us of possible risks and problems. It keeps us from making bad decisions and bad judgments, but it also is an emotion most commonly linked with our emotional and mental health. And it's also tied with our memories. You remember great things based off of emotions. You do. I remember some incredible things based off of some great, enjoyable emotions. Way back then. I remember some very tragic things based off of emotions. Okay? Mommy's in the room. I'm going to tell you, you don't remember the escalated pain that you gave birth with your children. You don't. You don't remember the pinnacle moments, but you remember that whole scene from the emotional capacities. And you do. You remember some of that pain, and there's no way that I could ever experience that pain, whether you broke me in half while you were giving, I can't. But I know that you remember all of that based predominantly on that emotion. And we remember those things, goods and bads, in our lives. So to understand that, it also is kind of a smoke signal, a smoke alarm warning of things going off in our lives. And the first thing, what did I say in our definition at the beginning, was it becomes a physical state. So we have this thing in our system called the fight or flight syndrome. And we're either going to stand there and fight it, or we're going to flight from it. Another component, a third component of that is freeze. So we're going to stand there immobilized based on emotion. We're going to stand there and then go, oh, okay, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to do everything I can to fight through it, right or wrong, good or bad, black or white. I'm going to do that, or I'm going to turn and run from it. And so I've given you what it might feel like from a physiological standpoint, fight or flight syndrome. Okay? Now we all have physical reactions to anxieties. So I asked you to get in your brain at least, some of you jotted them down, your 3 tops. I got my 3 tops. I know what my 3 tops are that are going to push me into anxiety real quick. But I also know some of the physical things that are going to occur with me when I get anxious at those higher levels. And so here might be some of them right there. Racing heartbeats. I mean, your resting heart ought to be, somewhere between 70 and 80 something. It's what it should be. I got a resting heart rate of 68. I know where my heart rate is. I know I'm not there. I know I'm probably about 78, or 80, simply because I'm standing up, I'm talking, and I'm engaged. And my brain is firing more because I'm having to think about 3 sentences ahead to make sure I say stuff right. It's just how we are. But when we go to 100, when we go to 110, and we really shouldn't be, that could be that. Sweating, especially what we call psychogenic sweating. All right? Have you ever heard of that one before? I know some of you in medicine, psychogenic sweating, you may have heard that. No? What? So you just all of a sudden, you have no reason, but you start sweating. But it's anxiety, right? You ever done that one where you start feeling anxious, and then all of a sudden, you start sweating? Your hair, my head beads up, your hair gets wet, right? You start sweating kind of on the armpits, or around the neck, right? Psychogenic sweating.
I had she's a pharmacist who deals a lot with natural hormones for women, but she said that women who are going through the change, actually, if they have a lot of anxiety in their life, it increases your hot flashes too. Like they've seen a correlation to that.
Right. So, you brought that up a little bit. So, and I like that phrase, the womanly change. Okay? At the mid-year lives. All right, and that's cool too. So the endocrine system, which is your hormonal system, is starting to fail you. Sorry. Okay? Blame that on Eve. Eve, okay? Blame birth pains on Eve, okay? Not us, But because it's starting to fail you, you're not getting enough hormone produced, or you're getting too much produced. Temperature regulation is one of the very first things that goes in kilter. Another aspect, and so we have that. Another aspect, thinking about psychogenic sweating, is this. All right, it's a simple understanding. Heart rate starts, correct? So I go from 68 to 108, just like that, because I'm anxious. But I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting in an air-conditioned room. I'm fine. I shouldn't be sweating, right? So I have 5 liters of blood in my entire system. Normally it takes 2.5 minutes from top to bottom for it to move. Just normal. 2.5 minutes. That's it's running through all your veins and arteries. So if my heart is moving faster, beating faster, pushing the blood faster, I have all these veins and arteries. So fluid's moving through the pipes. What's it producing? It starts with F. Friction. So because of added friction of the bloodstream, because of the heartbeat pounding, because of my thought process racing and creating that, there's a possible answer to psychogenic sweating. It produces heat, which triggers my endocrine system to turn on and turn off my body temps and to start cooling me down automatically. So because of the friction in the blood. And I don't even realize that. And that might be, for a lot of people, that's their first indicator. I start sweating. I didn't realize my heart was beating fast. So think of it on that regard. Just little medicine there as we're teaching it to give you a little understanding. Dry mouth. Fight or flight syndrome is going to turn off the salivation glands and you're going to get cotton mouth. Okay? Stomach cramps. Just kind of balled up. Okay? Insomnia. You just can't sleep. Have you ever been that, you're kind of anxious and you worry, okay, I'm tired. And that pretty little head of yours hits the pretty little pillow, and now that brain is just going. I can't sleep. Okay? So irritability, I'm going to leave that one alone, but it's there. Exhaustion, pins and needles. Okay? You just feel like everything's kind of wired up on that one. Clamminess. Okay? Chills, perhaps hot flashes. So Gina's already mentioned that one. Muscle tension. Anybody get muscle tense? Right in there. Okay, somewhere right in here. All right. All right. In the smaller, pit of the shoulder blades, you might get that. Dizziness, feeling lightheaded and fainting. Breathing faster. Not taking in enough oxygen, not getting enough carbon dioxide out of my system, I'm going to faint. Really not going to pass out, you're just going to get lightheaded. You're not necessarily going to faint. So even from a panic attack, you don't faint, in dealing with that. Inability to concentrate, chest pains, but these aren't symptoms of a heart attack. So what happens to you? So stop and think about what's your number one indicator. When you start getting it. Don't say it out loud. I don't want you to incriminate yourself, because then I know when you're stressed out, when I make you stressed. All right? I tell you, for me, when I start getting stressed, a couple things occur physically. Okay, I can't do it on demand, but just my fingertips will start shaking and shivering. Not my whole hand, but just the edges from the metatarsals down. Okay? And then I'll start catching cramps right there. I'll start catching cramps right there when I start getting stressed out. And I know that. One of that is the blood's pulling back from the extremities to take care of the inners. And I probably have not enough oxygen in my system to oxygenate my fingertips. I know that. So the other thing that's funny for me, and some of you have been on road trips with me and you've seen this happen, it's not a good road trip unless we've at least had one U-turn. And we all know that on a good road trip. But when we miss the turn, when the chief navigator goes, hey, you need to turn here. I'm a talker. I like to talk. I enjoy the conversations. That's when I clam down. Because now my brain's concentrating in. Okay, can I do a U-turn hauling a trailer with 14 kids in the van? Maybe not. Is there a trooper that's going to get me? Could I hit that ditch right there? I don't know. That's my brain thinking, but I'm quiet. I'm done. Which is the opposite of my chief navigator, because my chief navigator, who's normally kind of sullen and quiet, then my chief navigator starts going, oh, okay, well, let me do this. If I can let me probe that. Okay, we can go up here about, I think it says 1.5 miles. There's you're gonna turn this way, and you're gonna go over this way, and I'm like, be quiet. Just be quiet. Okay? So we're opposites, and we really work well together until those moments of anxiety. And so my number ones and my number twos and my number threes, you know, in driving, you know where they're at, but, you know, my chief navigator, I'm always that person's number one, number two, and number three. I know that. I know I'm that anxiety, you know, getter there. So we have those kind of aspects as we're dealing with it. The cool thing about it is, this is how you're designed. That's what I want you to understand. You are perfectly designed to have anxiety, to help you master the problems, to give you the strength, the focus, and the power to handle the problems. God designed you this way. I don't want you to forget that. And God gave you people around you to walk with you, to get you through. We just have to be willing to let somebody walk elbow to elbow with us when we need to. And we need to realize that we need to be willing to walk elbow to elbow with someone when they're in that fight or flight mode. And we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of who we are in that regard. So, a couple of the handouts that I've given you, okay, on the stats sheet, I'm not going to go through all the stats, but I just want you to see the stats sheet for anxiety in the U.S. Anxiety disorders in the United States are the most common psychological disorders of all, with a close second in mood and depressive states. Yes. And that's what we talked about last week. But we see here that the most diagnosed is in anxieties. And that's in the United States. It's not in every country. We have a lot of countries that don't have as stressful environments as we do. And you have to stop and think about our culture and how our culture is designed and the way they work. Okay? And so then I've given you in the stats, I've given you a breakdown of the actual psychological disorders per the United States. Okay? And so back on a regular handout, I have two strong definitions for you. One is general anxiety disorder, defined. It's excessive anxiety and worry, which is, the expectation, and it occurs more days than not, at least 6 months. At least 6 months. So in just having general anxiety disorder itself, we've got to have it the majority of 6 months. So if I'm using what we call the DSM-5, Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health, there's a criteria of about 10 items. I need to have at least 5 of those items consistent over a 6-month period, at the minimum 6 months. So it's not just today I'm sad, or because a couple of days I'm sad. I need to be very consistent with that if I'm having this disorder, which this is the biggest disorder in anxiety disorders listed that we diagnose. So we have that. And then we have the overarching anxiety disorder list there of just being defined. A group of mental disorders characterized by significant anxiety and fear, worries about futuristic events, the reactions in current events. And so we typically see that. So how do we treat it? How do we deal with it? Okay? How do we deal with it? We deal with it in a variety of ways. So if it's a thinking mode, if it's a physical mode, if it's a combination of all, we need to deal with it in a combination. Okay? Being a person that has kind of a medical background / a big psychological background, I know that I want to treat it from a holistic approach. That's what I want to treat it from. So I'm going to partner with a medical practitioner and help them help this person. So it might be just understanding some chemistry of the person. It's going to be understanding that they may need medications. And medications are good. They're good when they're used appropriately and they're dialed in at the right levels. They're good. And they can bring comfort and peace, even in the short term. We also want to think about some therapeutic kind of aspects. It may be that just learning new techniques from a therapeutic standpoint, just a learning capacity, how to handle things. So tomorrow I'll be teaching 48 law enforcement supervisors on stress management. Okay? And one of the aspects that we will talk about is how they handle for themselves their stress and have their tools in their toolbox. So I pose that to you. What are your tools in your toolbox in handling your anxiety and your stress? I've given you a variety of them. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to give you some good practicalness. Because we all are stress critters. We're all anxiety eaten up with it. We are. And so I wanted to make sure that you had that. Not all of these, I'm going to say this, not all of these will work 100%, 50%, or 25% for you. Be open to the fact that some of them won't work at all. Some of them aren't you. How about that? It's okay. It's okay. You can go read all those self-help books, and and here's the thing about self-help books or just leadership books. One of the things I glean from, I walk into a book and I'm going, okay, I'm going to pull 2, maybe 3 things out of this book that's going to be useful. The rest of the pages are not going to help me. Or I already know that, or I've already tested that and it failed me. It's okay. I walk in thinking that way. So don't think that Sterling is giving you this list, because when I showed this list to my 16-year-old, he was like, that's the dumbest one I've seen yet. As he was going down that list, I was like, tell me which ones would work for you. He was like, that one's not going to work. Heck no. You want me to count to 10? No, I count to 10, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be even mad. And I know I have family members, and you make them count to calm down, that's just, and it's escalating. You're right? I know that. Here's the other thing I know. With a 3-year-old in the house, I'm doing good to get to 4. Hey, I need you to count to 10. Let's count to 10. 1, 2. Paw Patrol. You know? I was like, okay, we're good now. He's not anxious anymore. We're good, okay. You know? So, understand that. But there are some that we're universal with. Okay? There are some definite, so take some time out. That's kind of my number one. That's a universal. You know, Jesus had a timeout place that he went to. The Bible says that he went there often, but we only have 3 times in Scripture that he actually went to the garden. I don't know if he was gardening. I don't know if he was digging in the dirt. I don't know if he was just sitting there listening to the cricket choir. I don't know. I know he prayed. He spent time with God in conversation and quietness. So, take some time, whatever it is. If it's going to work out and that's your thing, that's fine. If it's not your thing to work out, that's fine too. But take the time. Take the time. Do what is enjoyable for you that can step your mind out of the anxiety just for a little bit. All right? Take the time. Another big important thing that I want you to understand is your health and eating. Eating and drinking. Remember the Snicker commercials? You're not you when you're hungry. And you see all those funny characters. That's for real. A lot of times, because the body, fight or flight, shuts the stomach down, says, I don't want to digest anything, I don't want to process anything, I'm not hungry, I haven't been hungry for a couple of days. You literally have to force yourself to eat some stuff. Then you're going to start getting better. It's going to feel better. Why? Because the body's going to start processing. Drink good fluids. Drink good fluids. Right? I like coffee, but I realize when I'm anxious, I don't need to drink so much coffee. I need to drink twice as much water to hydrate me. So those are some automatics. Limit what you intake that are not sodas and coffees and waters. So some of those alcoholic beverages, just limit them. Okay? Limit them. And then one of the big pluses is get good sleep. again, medications can help a little bit. Take a small sleep aid and just try to calm down. Get sleep. Get good sleep. All right. Kids need good sleep. Teenagers need good sleep. Everybody needs good sleep. All right. So we see that. Learn what your triggers are. I think that's a universal kind of component as we're thinking through it. All right. So the last one on this page is very simple. Talk to someone. Talk to a friend. Talk to a small group. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have a small group of men that a couple of them are just like me, which is very scary if you think about that, and a couple of them are not like me at all. So there's a group of 5 of us, and we'll call each other up when we're at our wits' end, when we're at our lowest, and when we're, maxed out, whatever you want to call it, we'll call each other. And our phrase is very simple: shut up and listen. And it may be where I'll have that phone call, and he'll say, hey, shut up and listen. And I was like, okay, give me 10 minutes to clear the room, to get somewhere where I can listen. Give me 10. Can you give me 10? Can you give me 5? It's like an auctioneer at this moment. Yeah, I'll call you right back. And I'll clear everything I need to clear, and I'll do the road to Emmaus thing with him. There have been many, many phone calls that I've made like that. That I've said, hey, shut up and listen. I just need to talk. I need to spill it. Okay, good, do it. And sometimes it's while I'm driving around the neighborhood. Sometimes it's just sitting in the car. Our Sonic will do refills. I will tell you that if you sit there long enough. I've done that. Just push the button. Hey, I'm still here. On sweet tea. Yes. They'll do that. You can't sit in the drive-thru at Chicken Express that whole time. So I'm just saying. But talk to someone. Talk to someone that's professional. That's at a higher level that can help you. Talk to someone that's been there. That's done that. That's experienced those moments similar. Talk to someone. Talk to a minister. Talk to a friend. Talk to someone. Okay? So as we close out, just finishing out this, there's another on that last page. It says, what are your top 5s? What are your top 5s that you do when you're anxious? What are they? Think about that. What do you do? Now, those of you that are couples, you may just spill it to your spouse. But you know what? There are things that I can't spill to my spouse. From a professional side, there are things that I can't say. I can't. There are things I don't want to say because I don't want to contaminate her. I just don't. I sure don't want to contaminate my kiddos. So that's a good thing to a point. And that's why I say the top 5. What are your 5 things that you can do to get it? Okay? To get it. I didn't bring my backpack with me. It's actually in the car. But one of the things that I do is I journal. So I can't tell it to this person, so I journal it out. And sometimes my journals are prayers, sometimes my journals are just, verbal vomitation on the page. That's what it becomes. It doesn't make sense sometimes, but I get it out. Sometimes it's going to a quiet place. Dave knows this, and Joe knows this about me, that I like to do a little woodworking. So I have this little bitty shop thing that I have, and I just love to just go and sit. There are days where I just go, I got projects going, and I just sit there in the quietness, in the serenity. There's some days where I just get on projects, and I love to lose myself in cutting wood and messing wood up and painting wood. Oh, and I didn't want to paint it that color. I didn't want to paint it this color. I just lose myself in it. Those are those moments for me. Okay? Those are those opportunities. Music. Lose yourself in some music. We kind of talked about that last week, but that's one of my go-tos. I've always got the music going. Always. Even in my office, in my shop, we had that verbal, fun conversation, Sunday where I was doing projects and Jennifer was spending time in my world. And so she was wanting to sand. And, you know, after about the fourth time, I was telling Alexa to turn off. And I looked back, Alexa, turn back on. Alexa, turn off. Alexa, turn back on. She realized, oh, hey, that's my music. You know. And it was helping me. So what are your top fives? What do you do? Where do you go? How do you handle it? Sometimes it's something to, you know, eat. It's a treat. Yesterday was a Dr. Pepper day. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I had a Dr. Pepper for dinner. I paid the price about midnight because I was still awake. But yesterday was a Dr. Pepper day. Because I needed to treat myself. I needed to soothe myself just a little bit. I don't ever have Dr. Pepper anymore. I don't drink soda. Wow. But what do? Find your toolbox and start putting your tools in them for your anxiety. And guess what? When you get to help someone in the same situation, you can pull your tools out of your toolbox and help them. And you can walk that road of Emmaus with them. I know Jesus knew exactly how to help them. But he knew all the answers. He could have said as soon as he walked up to him, hey, listen, I'm Jesus. I'm here, dude. It's all good. I am going to redeem Israel, and I am going to bring salvation. Look, it's me. But he didn't do that. He walked 7 miles with them, sat down and ate dinner with them. Then he showed them who he was. But he comforted them along the way. He loved on them along the way. That's what we need to do. And that's what I hope. Last verse right there, Luke 12. Jesus said to them, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or about your body, or what you will wear. Jesus told them. Jesus said, hey, look, it's all minimal compared to what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I want you to think about it. The road to Emmaus. And my Vanna has told me it's time. All right? So, with that, let me pray over you, and let's have a great evening. I hope you've enjoyed just a moment to just sit back and relax a little bit. Let's pray. Holy God, thank you for tonight and the opportunity to get together with my friends. I pray that you will have helped us understand how we can step with the road to Emmaus with every person that has anxiety, worry, and stress. Teach us that in our own lives as well. Bless us and keep us safe as we travel home. It's in Jesus' name I pray.